to the meeting on March 7, 2022. This extension expires March 11, 2022. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call Grady Consultants, and that's on 75 Dale Street. So, motion to accept the letter.
Motion.
Seconded.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. So
Aye.
moved. Form A, is someone here for that?
For 113 building?
Janet?
Ashland Street? Yes.
Yes. Hi. Good evening.
Both 113 Ashland and the lot, vacant lot on Highfields Road. So the lot on Highfields Road is conforming by area. It's about 10,000 square feet, less than 9,000 square feet short of the required 8,000 square foot minimum. So the purpose of the plan in front of you is to subdivide 113 into lot 14B and parcel A. And parcel A will be conveyed to Highfields Road lot to make it a conforming lot. So that's the gist of the forming. We're not creating any frontage, so this is not a definitive subdivision by rule. So we request an endorsement.
This is an as-built?
It's an existing camp.
Their pool is that far away? It looks like an above-ground pool a mile away from the house.
Yeah, I know. They essentially use it as one lot. They live here and they own this.
Well, even a hot tub's a mile away from it.
You're essentially making the one with the pool a lot.
Pardon?
You're essentially making the one with the pool on it a lot, a conforming lot. Is that? Make the motion. Approval not required.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
There's that one. And you have...
We can sign all of these?
Yep.
Do it afterwards, or?
You guys need to do
They need to sign the Mylar. If they want to sign, can you guys sign the Mylar quick, and then we'll sign the plans
Sign
later?
this afterwards, yeah.
All right. And then he can take the Mylar. Thank you.
While you're doing that, is there anything on the Zoning Board of Appeals agenda that we want to reply to?
She needs those.
Nothing here. I don't have anything.
Nothing on the Zoning Board of Appeals? Okay. You've all seen the Robbins Ave situation. Are there any questions or comments on that?
I went down and looked at it. It looks like it's all there to me.
Did we
Pen, please.
get any additional information on it?
I emailed Mrs. Federico. She asked to keep it on the agenda, and Carl Garvey provided this new as-built. I received it today.
I'm sorry, say that last part again?
And Carl Garvey provided a new as-built that I received today.
This is what the aerial shows.
I did go through, I know there's been several questions about public safety. I went through the approval letter, and I went through all the minutes for the hearings on this. and there was no feedback from the police or fire department about not making this the way it was approved. I guess is the easiest way to put it. The way the board approved it was fine at the time. I know there's been some questions about that, but
Did the original have a hammerhead or anything at the end of it?
no.
Just this dead end?
Yep.
I went down there after that real heavy rainstorm, and there was no water, and everything seemed to be working.
That's nice.
So again, the question is on this David Federico labeled piece with a 60-foot frontage?
Yeah, so the question is, can the board, there was, Patrick from PMP went out and said it met all the requirements of a way, and the requirements for a way were laid out by Amy Questle in her July 15th email. The building inspector at the time had denied the building permit, saying the road was not accepted by town meeting. And the planning board must determine that Robbins Ave is a street or a way having, in the opinion of the planning board, sufficient width, suitable grades, and adequate construction to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic in relation to the proposed uses of the land abutting thereon or serving thereby, and for the installation of municipal services to serve such land and the buildings erected or to be erected thereon. Planning board shall not deem a way adequate for the purposes of subdivision control law, whether approval is required or not required in the zoning bylaw, unless said way meets the following minimum standards.
And that's where you said that we met.
And then we asked Patrick to go out, and he said, the roadway improvements appear to meet the below requirements. According to the roadway improvements plans, Robbins Ave right-of-way is 50 feet wide. The gutter line paved width is 18 feet. Total paved width, including the berms, is approximately 20 feet. The road is paved as shown on the current version of the as-built plan and does appear to be draining properly. And that was back on September 25th, 2020. So they are looking for you to determine if the road is actually a way in front of that grandfathered lot to the left of Albert Avenue.
The one that has a 60-foot frontage on
Yes.
on the plan? Okay.
Yep.
Yes, it does.
Someone want to make a motion to affirm that Robbins Ave is a way?
I'll make that.
Motion made.
I'm not sure, I'm not ready yet. Just hold on for 1 minute. Is the turnaround easement a public way?
No.
It's
Nothing
private.
to put,
It's all private
Robbins Ave is a public accepted street 650 feet in from Brockton Ave.
Okay,
And then Jack Reardon filed a roadway improvement plan and extended Robbins Ave, and that part never got accepted, and that's the part that's running in front of Lot 89, which is that grandfathered lot to the left of Albert Avenue.
okay.
So his part didn't get accepted, and obviously the David Federico part has not yet been accepted. That's why this all came up, is because the roadway that goes in front of that lot is not accepted.
Okay.
And if it gets bigger, they're gonna have to come before the board to do a road plan, if they extend the road.
Yeah,
beyond that.
it's just, it's a patchwork of stuff right now, so I'm just making sure that I'm not missing something. And at what point does it not become a patchwork of stuff?
Yeah.
We also approved the other part that comes down, this part here.
Right. That turnaround easement, is that like that just, was that for emergency vehicles, or is that just for the private homeowner?
It was for emergency vehicles when Jack Reardon extended the roadway.
Okay.
So I think you can see the extension. Thank you. Yeah, so the Jack Reardon extension was, I think, almost to the edge of Albert Avenue, and then the David Federico extension went back from that point to 50 feet from the end, from a lot line down there.
Okay. Just because I see that turnaround easement, this vehicle's parked there, it's being treated like a private driveway.
Yeah, I mean, if it became part of, if the roadway got accepted, then it would be part of the public way.
No, just more that, can,
And I
the
think,
fire
right,
truck needed to go down there today, could it make the turn?
right, well, they're not supposed to be parked there, and the person who built it is out of the picture, so.
All right, so it is paved up into, do you know what he's gonna do with that piece of land? The 60
So
foot?
he wants, I mean, it was my understanding
Yeah,
from multiple years ago that the grandfather lot he wanted to put a single-family home on. I'm not sure. And then the other one is a single-family home, the one he extended the road for.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. I make no promises on the grandfathered lot, though.
No, we're not.
I don't have a
we're not
building permit for that.
We're not grandfathering the lot.
So there's motions been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Request to amend site plan 225 Groveland Street.
Good evening, Garrett Horsfall with Kelly Engineering Group. I'm here along with Harvey Hurwitz, who is the owner and applicant associated with this project. It's located at 225 Groveland Street, Cape Cod lumber site. Back in about May of 2021 of last year, we were before this board to request site plan approval and associated special permits for an expansion of the lumber yard. Since then, Harvey has, gone out to pricing and to bid and got back some pricing, and, we really want to scale back the project slightly, just based off of numbers that were received, associated with site work and the like. So previously, the project included the expansion of 3 buildings, about 21,000 square feet in total. The 2 sheds on the westerly side and the southerly side will stay in this proposed site plan. However, the shed located to the north will be removed as a part of this proposed project. And as you see on the, I believe this is the layout plan. What we have done here is we have essentially shifted all of the work to the south slightly and to the west as well. It pulls the limit of work away from the abutters as well as further away from the resource area. It results in a reduction of about 13,000 square feet of impervious area. About 6,000 of that is, 6,200 is about pavement and about 6,600 is building. The shed in the southerly corner will be about 7,000 square feet, and this shed and associated work has remained unchanged as a part of this work. We will be extending the sound wall to go all across the paved section through there. It's located on the northerly side of this site plan. And we also have redesigned the drainage system slightly. This is a smaller system as there's less impervious to mitigate. It'll still provide the required recharge volume, water quality, and peak mitigation. We have received, peer review letter from Dave Johnson of Norwood Engineering, and we've reviewed the comments, and we similarly would like to request how the similar site plan was previously approved with the conditions of complying with that letter. And we didn't see anything in there that's a major deal with everything we believe we can handle in that letter. So we think this is a reduced size project, located, within the previously approved limits, actually further in and away from the abutters as well as the wetlands. And Harvey, I don't know if you had anything else to say.
I think you covered it all.
Dave?
We reviewed the plan, and I really have no major comments. Most of them are minor. Some of them are holdovers from the previous approval that hadn't been addressed yet. And so we've recommended the board may approve it subject to addressing our comments and those comments in the previous approval, which I think are summarized in our current report.
Any comments from the public? Board members?
That sound wall is about 12 feet.
It'll be similar to the exact sound wall that's there today. I think it's about 8 to 10 feet today. It'll be an extension of the existing one.
Something else too, the floor elevation here and the elevation where the wall starts would actually be at a lower level than the area around it.
So we are depressed, in a bowl slightly here to also, keep the noise away from any abutters.
And Dave, would you agree that'll be sufficient to, okay.
Well, it's a well-explained plan too, so I appreciate that. It's a well-explained plan. Something's gone wrong with my voice.
Thank you.
Have a motion to amend the
I'll make that
plan
motion.
and in accordance with the letter from Norwood Engineering of February 2nd, 2022.
I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Public hearing, special permit and site plan review, marijuana retail application, 678 Adams Street.
Is this different from the growing facility in some place? Oh, okay. Thought they were kind of
The Abington
same.
Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, February 7, 2022, at 6:15 PM on the application of Michael Nasrawati, CEO, Nashmac LLC, 654 Washington Street, Braintree, Mass. 02184, for site plan approval pursuant to the Town of Abington zoning bylaw, Chapter 17577, site plan review and special permit application pursuant to the zoning bylaw, Chapter 175-24.3, a special permit for a marijuana retail facility located in the marijuana overlay district. The property is owned by Wayne Warmington, trustee, RJM Realty Trust, 327 West Washington Street, Hanson, Mass. The property is located at 678 Adams Street on Assessors Map 65, Lot 82. Plans can be viewed at the town clerk's office. Wayne P. Smith, chairman, advertised on January 24th and 31st, 2022, Rockland Enterprise.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Abington Planning Board. My name is Michael Nasrawati. I am the owner of Nashmac LLC. Nashmac LLC began leasing 678 Adams Street in the fall of 2021. We received a host community agreement from the Abington Board of Selectmen through the town manager in spring 2021. With those two pieces together, we are looking to move forward and open up a three-phased project at 678 Adams Street. The first phase is in front of you for site plan review right now, which is the retail portion of the establishment. Our engineer on this project is Austin Chartier from McKenzie Engineering Group. Our architect on the project is Krista Manna from KR Interiors and Architecture. She's unable to be here today due to COVID, but is able to call in if the board had any questions for her. Tonight, we're requesting site plan approval, associated special permits, a building permit to issue, and certain waivers for the project. And with that, I will open it up to the board if you guys have comments. I did receive a list of comments from Mrs. Shea regarding some of the town departments, and then I received a letter from Norwood Engineering regarding the town's engineering review of our plans. Briefly, in the letter that I received from Elizabeth Shea, a few issues were brought up. The first being that the plans were not stamped by an architect. My response to this is that our architect was pretty adamant that the stamped plans are generally not required for planning board review. With that, we've done all we can to expedite the process to get you stamped plans here tonight. We were unable to do so, but we did submit a permitting progress plan packet from our architect, which has been supplied to the board today. And as soon as those final stamped plans are available, they will be submitted to the board.
You know, I've never heard of that requirement either, other than usually the civil engineers.
Okay.
I mean, nobody cares about the architects.
Yeah, she made it seem like it was a bit of a surprise to her, but, you know, we're doing what we can to comply with the board's requirements at this time. The second comment was that the police and fire department did not receive the required site plan and whatnot to give their opinion. The police department.
No, that's not true, they did.
Okay.
The fire department did not, I will say that, but the police department did.
Great.
He had the plan.
Yeah, at the time of this letter, I think I had to forward you that information still. I did speak to the police chief. He indicated that town council would be reviewing the security plan requirements of the police department, and he would get back to me most likely following this meeting. The third comment had to do with the Cannabis Control Commission's review of our site plan. In response to that, I would say that the state application is pending with the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. They have not yet requested a site plan review from us, but it is required prior to getting licensed. The state will work closely with us to make sure that our security systems in place are sufficient, that the safety of the proposed shop is up to standard, and all other state regulations are met with the actual lot itself before we are issued a final license from the state. Lastly, there was an outstanding tax bill which I have brought receipt of payment today. It was in the amount of $2594.83. We do have evidence that that was paid.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So those were the comments that I received from the planning board on our application. We did have additional comments from Norwood Engineering. I can go through those one by one and respond to them if you would like me to, or I can open up for questions at this time.
Well, a few things. Obviously, with the commission, there's a lot of work needs to be done on the application. I mean, a lot of things.
They're very thorough.
I read that through. Not that it makes much difference, but on the agreement with Wayne Walmington, I guess his name is misspelled at the beginning of it, but I don't think it makes much difference.
That would just be a scrivener's error.
Right. And then, Dave, do you want to make some comments?
I'll just make one. I think it's one that controls a lot of things on the site plan. Some we identified early on, but the big issue is what's being proposed or what's not being proposed in terms of the paving of the parking lot. From what I can see, and I spoke to the applicant's engineer briefly last week, it appears from what I know that the gravel parking lot is remaining. There's no additional pavement going down. It appears from the plan that the entrance to the retail portion is partly paved and partly gravelled. The parking can't be delineated on the gravel portion. They provided what's required under the zoning bylaw in terms of square footage, but when you take out the potential employees, they've only provided 5 or 6 parking spaces. So when you take out the potential employees, and this gentleman can probably respond to the question as to how many employees there are, I would assume there's at least 2. That only leaves 3 parking spaces for retail use.
I think the other marijuana store on Route 18, I thought had 13 employees. I mean, there were a lot of people working at one time.
Yeah. So the big question for the board to determine is what's going to happen with the site. That will obviously control stormwater runoff, parking location, and things like that. So I think the big issue here that needs to be resolved is what's happening with the parking lot. Because we don't know what's going to happen with the remainder of the building. There is a large warehouse that you can see on the plan that's currently vacant. What's happening with that, we don't know. Really, both uses should stand on their own in terms of the location of parking, number of parking spaces. So that's where I'd start. The second item I'd just bring to your attention, Liz, is that I did receive a call today from the deputy fire chief. I didn't take the call, it came into the office, but I did return his call, and I have not heard back from him, so I'm not sure if he has comments, because the message was he wanted to, speak to me about the site plan. So there may be something coming from the deputy fire chief.
The fire chief did send a letter in saying he has no great concerns at this moment, but other uses may generate other. But I know they want to meet with you guys, and I'm sure he wants to pick your brain before he sits down to a meeting.
A letter from the chief, not all, for the purposes of the planning board at this time, the fire department has no major objections, with the understanding that anything built or remodeled will need to be up to current fire and building codes throughout the stages of the project. We will set up a meeting with the project owner to go over the details, and I do not anticipate attending tonight's meeting, sincerely. Nothing else to read on that, is there? And then, while I'm at it, a letter from David Del Papi, and that was to the fire chief. I've spoken with Attorney Nashawati regarding his establishment security plan. I informed Attorney Nashawati that at this particular point in time, I cannot offer an opinion on his security plan. I've spoken with Scott regarding my concerns surrounding offering such an opinion, and will be conferring with town council regarding the police department's approval of any such security plans. Attorney Nashawati has been informed of the same. I will not be present tonight's meeting. Thank you, David. And a letter through Rick Collins
It's from Bob Wing.
from Bob Lean.
Bob Wing.
Bob Wing. Unfortunately, I have to work tonight and won't be able to make the meeting on Cannabon. I was wondering if tonight is a vote to move forward, or will there be more meetings on this? I am not against this at all. My concern is traffic on Route 58. Right now, it is impossible to get out of our driveways during morning and evening commute. I was wondering what they are going to do for that. Also, is there just for a retail portion or also for the growing and manufacturing? Concern for growing is the odor. Address some of that.
Yes, so to address the town engineer's comments first, there were sort of 3 major issues that I understand you're bringing up. One is the delineation of parking spaces on a gravel lot. The second is the adequacy of the number of parking spots for a retail establishment. And the third would be making sure that the adequacy of parking for the warehouse would be able to stand on its own if this retail parking plan were to be accepted. With that assumption moving forward, I will say that we're presenting this parking plan to the planning board in hopes to figure this out collaboratively. It is our opinion that aesthetically, based on the business being named Canna Barn and us going with a rural theme, where we'll have, a nice wraparound farmer's porch and, some nice wood trim set up. The colors that we've chosen on the original rendering aren't finalized. They're much too dark in some areas, much too light in some areas. So ultimately, we want this to be a collaborative process with the planning board. It is my hope that we will be able to get a waiver of 175-48, which requires paved parking for retail establishments. The reasons being, first, the aesthetics would work with this use. I think it's a nice, warm feeling already as a lot with the gravel parking in place. I think the curb appeal of the gravel lot is somewhat positive, and I feel like a paved lot would make it look a lot more like a corporate type retail marijuana establishment, which is not what we're going for, but I understand if the town has a need for that, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to comply with the planning board's requirements. But our preference is to have a gravel main parking area with a paved parking area only for the handicap spots, for the loading docks, things like that, so that anybody using our handicap spots would be able to, push their wheelchairs or have their wheelchairs move over paved ground as opposed to gravel. So the plans we submitted did have the handicap spots on the paved portion of the lot. As far as the mixed gravel paved lot, we do have a reason for that, and we are hoping that the board will grant a waiver to allow us to continue forward with a substantially gravel lot for this site. The delineation issue of parking spaces we feel like can be resolved with curbs. For each individual parking spot, we will put down a curb on the gravel lot. It'll be a bright curb. We will also put up signage regarding the parking spots. We will have clearly labeled signs for ingress and egress. And the delineation issue, we could do things like, make a promise to paint once a month or something along those lines, but I feel like just bright curbs along the ground with some stand-up signs if required would allow us to keep that rural farmhouse type aesthetics of the property as opposed to doing a paved lot.
There's enough existing places everywhere that have gravel parking lots. The only reason some of them work is that it's delineated in a way that someone knows where to at least stop a car, and they can work out their own spaces in between the cars, but as long as knowing where not to cross over into this parking spot.
Right, so the idea would be on this center line of parking spaces, there'd be matching curbs facing each direction, showing ultimately where to park for people who are going to use the gravel parking area. All these spots that are inside the paved area would be painted and striped. But it's a big area to pave. It's a costly area to pave, and before we're making any sales, it would be beneficial to us to be able to at least push any sort of paving requirements that the planning board would require to phase 2 of this project, or once we start working on the warehouse aspect of this. Regarding the issue that was brought up, I believe that the main issue with the mixed use was that if individuals come in this area and are exiting this area, they'll be actually going from gravel lot to a portion of paved lot, so maybe 2 tires would be on paved, 2 tires would be on gravel, which is unacceptable. As a solution to this, we are proposing we'll just pretty much come up with a straight line here so that this will be all gravel to the right. There'll be no driving on any sort of paved lot when exiting. But if somebody did want to use the paved lot, they would drive onto the paved lot here, where these 3 spots would be paved, the handicap spots would be paved, and the loading dock would be paved. I'm not sure if that would satisfy the board, but it is our intention to request that waiver and see if we can move forward in that direction. The adequacy of parking for retail, we do have, I think, around 30 spots proposed if we include the gravel lot, which would be adequate for our retail portion and at least some of our employees. The benefit of this lot is it is large enough that we have an entire area behind the warehouse, which we plan on incorporating into Phase 2 parking for employees and for the delivery business for our fleet of delivery vehicles. So the adequacy has never been a real concern for me as far as parking on this lot. That was one of the things that drew me to the site, was the adequacy of parking compared to similarly situated retailers in Abington. Lastly, the adequacy of parking for the warehouse and the ability for warehouse parking to stand on its own. We don't plan on using any of the out front parking for our warehouse uses. The warehouse won't be a retail establishment. It'll all be employee parking and parking for our delivery vehicles. We plan on putting out back of the warehouse. There's substantial space back there for parking. We want to remove, we're not exactly sure yet, we don't want to invest substantial funds into the face of the warehouse at this time, but the idea is that we want to remove those bay doors on the front, make a nice clean siding, do landscaping in front of the warehouse to make it look like a clean, up-to-date warehouse. And then around the back, we would have a separate bay for delivery vehicles to get their product, and then a separate bay on top of that for any sort of cultivation pickup, wholesale shipments that we plan on making. But those would all be outside of view from the curb. We feel like it's a more secure option, and we also feel like it solves any sort of issue with shared parking between the retail and the warehouse component.
Yes.
Through the chair, I just want to, for those of us who are really ancient townies, this is the old Jenkins and Simmons truck terminal, which goes back.
Bay State Nurseries.
Bay State Nurseries too. Well, you go back further than me, Mr. Chair. Not much further. Anyway, what are you going to use the warehouses for?
So the warehouse is planning on being around a 10,000 square foot cultivation facility, a roughly 1,000 square foot manufacturing operation, and then around 1,000 square feet for our delivery offices and our delivery vault. The nature of delivery and retail is you can't use the same product that you sell in your retail store to deliver, so we'll actually have to have our own vault, our own secured area in the warehouse. So delivery, cultivation, and manufacturing, a craft cultivation operation, not a big scale cultivation operation, but a craft on-site cultivation operation. We would manufacture our own craft edibles, tinctures, oils, things like that, sell them in our retail store, sell them wholesale as well, and the delivery headquarters will be located in that warehouse space.
I'd like to see too. I recognize in this drawing here, I can recognize the house. I know I'd like to see, like the house superimposed on the plan, just so that we get an idea of, how that's incorporated.
I'm sorry, can you clarify?
Well, it would be like, okay, here's the existing building.
Right.
And have the existing building superimposed on your planned building, just so that we got a hint of, the changes that are going to be made to this thing.
Well, if it looks like you're keeping the building and just adding a porch.
It looks like, okay.
Yeah, we're going to, the footprint of the building is going to remain the same. We're going to obviously be reinforcing certain exterior walls, things along those lines, but as far as the building footprint goes, the only change is going to be a farmer's porch that we're going to be adding on the parking lot side of the property, so that patrons, in the event that it's rainy or something like that, and they are not at a point where they can wait inside the facility yet, they'll be able to wait in the dry farmer's porch until it's their turn to come in.
No, that was a question. Also, my wife commented on Facebook on the colors, and I'll own up to that.
The ugly one?
And you responded.
Yeah, no, I want to make it clear that This was just to give the planning board some type of last-minute visual rendering of the property, more to show the siding choice that we're going for. We're going to use some sort of vertical ceramic cement-type siding, hardy board or something along those lines. The top blue was supposed to be much, much lighter. We also have about 6 different renderings with 6 different color patterns, you know, for everything from a red barn to a green barn to different color combinations top and bottom. At this point in time, we haven't finalized what our color scheme will look like, but as far as the structure of the building's concerned, that's going to be the bones.
A faded red barn. My wife is from Vermont, so we know about barns. And, I mean, this is just my personal observation, but a faded red-colored barn part of it, you know, that way it would be bright, it would be a lighter color than the traditional dark red barn,
Right.
but it would also give you your agricultural feeling.
Yeah, no, it's a simple marketing decision at this point, what color we're going to make this. So, you know, along with the planning board, we want to work in conjunction with the planning board to sort of decide the look and feel of this property. But we do have options. This isn't set in stone. In fact, I can assure you that that's not the color that the building will
So
be.
Kathy, if you're watching this,
On, a question on the southern border.
Yes.
You've got a nice, that's to the left side of the site plan. There's a nice dark line on the page, but nothing exists out there. It's all gravel. Are you going to put a fence up there along that whole thing?
If the planning board requires it, we do share the lot with the neighboring warehouse. As of right now, there's been a lot of mixed use where they're having their guys come in this side of the building, go around back and exit out of that parking way over here, driveway over here. We don't have a legal interest in that driveway, so we're trying to keep all of our activity over to this side of the building. My understanding that if the town requires some type of fencing, we would gladly install a fence along this line, and that's what that black line is meant to delineate. It's a proposed fence. The fence currently only goes to around right here to separate the properties, and then there's some white markings that are surveyor double-checked for the purposes of the site plan.
I think that was the concern I heard from the neighbor, who I think is right there, is the idea of, both ways, I guess, traffic going in and out separate ways, because if I didn't know the area, I would assume the driveway to the left of your building is the driveway to get into the store. So,
Yeah,
but that's what I would assume. I know it's not now, but I mean, so I do wonder if, I think this would be best if there was some sort of official delineation between the two property lines, unless you specifically want it to stay open. But whether it's a fence with some landscaping along it or something, or some sort of buffer, that way you can make sure that the traffic stays where it needs to stay, and you're not having trucks and cars going in and out of whatever entrance they feel is appropriate.
Yeah, I should have taken the opportunity to speak with the neighboring landowner about some sort of compromise solution to this prior to this meeting. I haven't done so yet. We're open to any sort of reasonable, collaborative effort to increase the utility of both lots. But for purposes of what we have a legal right to, that fence would be installed.
Now, I think that's the big one, is just if I'm a customer coming in, even if I go in the right way, I'm going to assume I'm looping around the back to get out, which would put them on a different property.
So substantial signage is going to be put up regarding the, the proper tracks for vehicles to take.
I didn't want to jump. Are you done, Joe?
No, you're,
I have a question.
glad you had it on.
I have a question. Bruce, you must know the answer to this. Is 58 a state-controlled highway that's going to require an access permit?
I don't believe it is.
The town,
Local jurisdiction, Route 58.
Yeah. So you don't have to go through all the hoops with District 5.
Thank you.
So 5 years down the road, you're wildly successful. You're going to open up your manufacturing and cultivation center. Are you still going to want to keep that parking lot gravel?
I can't say yet right now, Rick. I think there's, the appropriateness of the lot, in our opinion, is our ability to expand cultivation
Yeah.
as necessary. That was one big thing that I was looking for in a lot. It's something with a warehouse, but something with the capacity to expand the warehouse. I know that paved lots are, easier to maintain. They're, easier to delineate. And who knows how long a gravel lot will hold up for and how much it's gonna take to, maintain a gravel lot with traffic. But it is our intention to keep the lot gravel so long as the planning board and the town of Abington thinks that it's a good idea. And if it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea, and we'll pave it. But,
Yeah, I mean,
I can assure you, in the last snowstorm that we just had, you'd be thankful that you had asphalt.
right. We do,
Because it's almost impossible without asphalt to clear it and everything.
Okay.
The other problem is that it's certainly a different era today when cars don't leak oil and everything else, which they used to do, and you see very little of it in the parking lots and things like that today. So that is not as much of a problem as was before, but in order to, get, rock salt to work or anything else, and then to start, scraping it and everything else, and then the amount of dust that you're gonna have. I worked in a business like that at one time, and I can assure you that most farm stands and everything else, they want to have blacktop. Because it just, the amount of dust and everything else that goes, you'd be surprised what ends up. I know it's a closed building, you don't have the windows open and things like that, but I think you really need to think about it. And it is difficult to mark with, I realize you can put, stops down and things like that, but, and not only that, but sometimes without lines, people start running over them,
so there's a couple of responses to that. First, I know that current landlord Wayne Warmington has had this gravel lot in place for quite some time, and he ran into the issue of dust being kicked up prior. He figured out a solution to that with a certain sized grain of crushed stone to lay down as a top layer on the gravel, which doesn't cause any sort of dust to be kicked up, or at least that's what he claims. I haven't seen that be an issue since I've been at the property. When he plows the lot, because this has been a gravel lot for a while and it's been the same existing gravel, it gets pretty close. I mean, it gets pretty tight, it gets pretty close. There's a lot of grit from that gravel lot to create traction. And I've never had an issue personally showing up to the lot after a snowstorm and finding the lot, in a state of...
But I can assure you that if you're in a car and you want to leave, and there's gravel road, which there is there, and you want to get out of the 58, you wish it was blacktop.
Okay.
I just know that's the situation, but...
Okay. I think I understand. It would be our request that...
I understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So we plan on following up this, this business venture, the retail business venture, with supplemental business ventures on this lot. And financially, paving the lot, it's a big financial commitment for us right now, especially since we're already being, we're already spending a lot of money as it is to try to get licensed. And we did take significant time to fundraise. It does not mean that we can't pave it. It just means that if there's a waiver available to allow us to pave over the course of, the next X number of months,
We could.
It would be helpful. I also don't want to shut down our business to pave a lot once we're up and operational, so if it's an issue that needs to be handled, I'd like to get out in front of it, but it is, sincerely our preference that we don't have to pave at least that non-handicap customer parking. If there's a solution available that doesn't require a full paving of the lot, would be interested in going that direction.
And one way to do that would be to say if that worked or didn't work, that the planning board could have you put black asphalt
Yeah,
down at a later date.
absolutely.
I'm just thinking, at East Bridgewater, C.N. Smith has a year-round farm stand, and that's paved.
Where's this?
C.N. Smith in East Bridgewater, it's on the back roads in East Bridgewater, over by the Y
Yeah.
in East Bridgewater. And David could tell you, it's a paved parking lot because they run year-round. Of course, I'm also thinking of a farm stand in West Bridgewater on, what is it, 104? And that's and that's a seasonal farm stand, and that's not paved. But as my Vermont in-laws would tell you, a seasonal, year-round operation like this, you would value the paving. And if you want to be environmentally conscious, there is, pervious paving and stuff like that that you could put down, which would be environmentally friendly.
Right.
And not have the full asphalt paving. So you have options.
One additional consideration is that we plan on opening up if all goes well, our timeline is May 2022. At that point in time, we shouldn't have too much worries about snow, and it would give the business a little bit of time to make some sales, to, be able to reinvest in the property and things like paving the lot. If the planning board would allow us to, some type of extension on a paving requirement, that would be something that would be helpful to us. And once again, I'm not trying to hold this up over paving the lot. If
I don't know, I'm
if it's
listening to the
required.
chair, and I think we're willing to work with you on
Okay,
this.
great.
I think my preference would be, maybe this makes sense to the board, is as you start to move to that next phase, the delivery phase, that's kind of the trigger when, okay, now you have to come back with a paving plan. Would that make sense?
That would make perfect sense for us.
I don't
Is
know
it
if the board
delivery
makes
of the
sense to-
whole,
That would make sense.
the warehouse use the whole?
I think the warehouse will come in separately.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm
They're
saying
gonna have
is
to
when
come back
that,
before us, I believe, on the warehouse.
Delivery will be a warehouse component, so when we open our delivery, it will be a warehouse-based site plan review.
yeah, I mean, from what I understand, he does not want to stop just at retail, that his great business plan wants to include delivery and all these other pieces, so attaching this to that next phase, I don't think that's something that's going to stop him from moving forward to that next phase.
Right.
That's my
It
assumption.
wouldn't stop us moving forward to this phase either.
Yeah.
It's just financially, it would put us in a tough position as far as stocking our shelves for opening day.
So, I mean, we have approved the Green Harbor one we approved technically isn't paved, it was an impervious type of surface topping. It wasn't paved.
Which one was that?
Green Harbor, that's,
1410 Bedford Street.
All right.
When they make a jump to pavement, though, that's probably going to trigger.
That wasn't pervious pavers, that was pervious pavement.
was pavers, was it?
No, it was pavement.
It's just straight
It
asphalt
was
and pavement,
pervious pavement.
Okay.
pervious as opposed to impervious.
So in my suggestion, and board can take it for what it is I like your idea, put down curb markers, so vehicles kind of know where they are, put down the lines, and I would insist on filling in any grooves, ruts that would form. And part of it, I would assume that if your parking lot's in bad shape, you're not gonna get the business. People are just gonna go to some other place
Exactly.
in the area, so, that's kind of your own decision, and that's what it is.
Yeah, it's a business decision. If the board allows us to make it a business decision, we would like to try the aesthetics of the gravel lot. I think it works based on our,
I agree, I'm just looking at a Google photograph, and that gravel lot is perfect.
It's in good shape.
Absolutely.
It's in really good
just down.
shape, and it's been in really good shape,
Yeah.
for years, without many sort of issues popping up. So I think it has good bones underneath it.
I think so.
But as far as can't get around the snow. So, yeah, that's an issue that I'd at least want to address before next winter. If
Then the entrance and exits is something you're going to have to give some thought to, because you just don't want cars just entering at any particular spot.
So we did propose an island.
And you think that would keep them in? All right.
I think the island creates a pretty clear entry point closest to the building, but closest to the warehouse, it is still a rather wide entry point. So, that could be tweaked to allow a little tighter of an entry point.
And on your application for, I think you probably want to use a different paper than the Worcester Telegram or Gazette or whatever, so you need to change that. You're going to advertise out there for employment and so forth.
Did I put,
That-
what's the
that's what it
telegram?
is, more than once.
I think I meant to put Brockton Enterprise.
Enterprise and Patriot Ledger.
Yeah, no, that was a typo. I apologize for that.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I bring up about the look where it looks like you go into the left side of the building, and one of the things I realize that is that the sign, the existing sign's on the wrong side of the building. It's, could be, I know that it's expensive to pull that
No,
electricity over, but
we'll be removing that sign and creating a new sign.
your new one shows it pretty much in the same
It shows it in
location.
the same position, but yeah, we don't plan on using the existing structure of that sign to hang a new sign on. It's
I'm just
gonna-
saying, is make sure, a way of completely delineating, so someone doesn't come flying up 58 and shoot down that
Yep.
driveway on the other side of you.
No, I
They can
understand.
get around, so.
Does the current property have trailers and boats still out back at the warehouse?
There is so the trailers that are out back are owned by the landlord,
Okay.
but is some boats back there that he has seasonal contracts with
Okay.
the owners of, and he's had trouble getting in touch with those, well, at least this is what he tells me.
Okay.
He's had trouble getting in touch with those boat owners to remove their boats. But the lease does call for the back lot to be cleared.
Okay.
So all the trailers and boats will be gone?
The trailers that he owns, I am willing to work with him as long as it doesn't create any sort of hazard. I think he stores some mattresses in there, and he has a little, a little leftover inventory from closing down his shop for us. So I'm okay with him having some warehouse, some trailer spaces back there, at least until we move on to phase 2 of our operation.
But they're registered trailers, and
I can't speak to any of that, Rick. I
all right,
apologize.
our bylaw does require trailers to be registered,
Okay, so,
just a note.
yeah, no, I can't speak to that right now. I can follow up with the board as far as,
When, Liz, previously when we've given these plans to the police department, what has their response been? I know it was a change in administration, but have they reviewed them, given okays, thumbs up, thumbs down? Do they say
They
anything?
gave us okays. They met with the owner-operators
Okay,
and reviewed the security plan. As I told Mr. Nashawati when he came in, I didn't want his security plan in our file, because our file is a public record.
Thank you.
That's a different animal for police and fire. So I know Chief Del Papa is going to reach out to town council and kind of get a guideline as to what he needs to be looking at.
okay.
And then he'll meet with Attorney Nashawati and go over the security plan.
Did he review Mr. Leonard's? I think that was the last one we had in front of us, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'm not sure who was there at the time. I got to be honest with you. They all got plans. Traditionally, I don't hear back from the police department.
Okay.
I did reach out specifically this time to police and fire to make sure they had a response for you guys, so.
speaking on that, we did submit our security plan to the State Cannabis Control Commission. They responded to our security plan within 2 business days, partially because we're economic empowerment applicants on the state level. We get priority review for our licensing decisions on the state level. They got back to us right away. They told us, delete these parts of the security plan, add these sections in, that'll pass, the state. So they're working really closely with us to make sure that our plans and standard operating procedures are.
It's similar to what other people have had.
It's all more or less, the state has a criteria of phrases and statements and actions that need to be in there, that you need to follow as a business, and as long as they're in there, they'll approve it.
Bruce, how do you feel if he recreates the old barn on Route 18, the old that Tessa Noser is in now?
Oh, God, I would,
Or Terranosa, the farmer's market.
Remember the
Farmers Market?
Yeah.
farmer's market when it's the red barn?
oh, I would love, something like that. That would really be a country
Yeah, it's,
thing.
I'm not a,
We have an
Aesthetics
agricultural
thing.
heritage in Abington, believe it or not, so,
Pigs, but
I think that would be cool if
Pigs?
you were able to do something.
Big strawberries.
strawberries, yeah, so, I love the name. I think that it's a nice theme to allow, individuals from every age to come shop at our store and, not really cater to one group or another. It's supposed to be just a local, 21 plus, that goes without saying, yeah, for sure, for sure.
In regards to what Mr. Wing brought up, I think what we learned from the existing shop is that their peak tends to be in the evening, not in the morning, doesn't coincide with the morning rush hour. Maybe there'd be some extra business on the way home, but it doesn't seem like it's caused additional.
In the overall situation,
Yeah.
it's not a heck of a lot different than having a 2-family house. I mean, for traffic, it's not coming in and out like, I know there's problems getting out of Summit Road where I live.
Problems getting out of your
I mean,
house.
it's what it is.
I haven't seen the traffic volumes on 58. I'm sure there are a lot less traffic volumes than they are on 18, with the other places right now. But Old Colony Planning Council has those traffic counts if you don't want to do a traffic study. You could call Bill McNulty or Cal Mowat at Old Colony Planning Council, and he could help you with the traffic volumes on 58. I'm sure OCPC's put out traffic counters on that stretch of road. Because it's not a state road, so you're not going to do the curb cuts, you're not going to have to probably not going to do a traffic study, but just for your own information. And to answer neighbors like Bob Wynn, it would be good to have those numbers.
Yeah, we did hold, I think, 2 different community outreach meetings at this point, and some neighbors brought up, minor concerns about traffic, but it wasn't, anything that we felt was, fatal to our plans or anything like that. We felt like we could work with those neighbors to, get their approval.
Did a neighbor bring up a bus stop issue? No?
Is there a bus stop issue that you're aware
There's a
of?
family across the street. No. They're not too worried about it, but
Okay.
they're just trying to figure out the best way of coordinating it so
Okay.
that, the big thing basically now it turns around in the parking lot or something.
A school bus?
I think so.
I mean, yeah, if there's anything we can do to facilitate that, we will facilitate that. I think gravel lot would be great for that. There's not many people parked in the lot. Bus wouldn't have too much of a problem, just spinning right around.
Gummies at home.
Just be happier when you get paid. Just
Yes, I mean,
be hearing
financially.
that from us.
And there's a few waivers we would be requesting today. One would be the $25,000 surety bond requirement. Again, it's not fatal to our plans, but it does, put us in a tight situation as far as stocking our shelves for opening day. We would request that we be able to issue a $5,000 surety bond at this time, and or whatever the board may feel is appropriate for this type of project. Additionally, because we won't be increasing the impervious area based on the submitted plans, we would request a stormwater waiver. We did get a letter from our engineering company attesting to that fact, which has been supplied to the board. And lastly, we would request that if the board is not comfortable moving forward with approval today, that they would issue a building permit so that we could begin our demolition of the interior walls and things like that, so we could get a better idea of, how this interior look and theme and feel is going to work for us. It's really hard to visualize sort of the proper materials to use and the proper, walls to use on the interior and ceilings with these walls separating room by room. So if we were able to get our demo done without having to wait until any follow-up meetings, if that's the direction the board takes, that would be extremely helpful to us. Also financially, it would move this project up by at least a month.
I think in the past, and maybe a couple times, you could correct me if I'm wrong, where we've allowed that, but we've asked the building inspector to hold off giving occupancy a permit until the planning board has received
But he
that.
doesn't even have complete plans yet.
True. Well, actually, I don't know that.
No, I mean, the letter from Nolan Engineering was suggesting that they continue this till the next meeting and get the plans
For the site.
for the site.
For the site.
So we wouldn't be asking for any sort of permit to do anything to the exterior of the property. It would be all interior.
The problem is, that's all you're gonna be doing, mostly, right, is interior work? And if stuff doesn't get done, the town has no leverage to make you do it, right? Because you've got your building permit.
We have to get occupancy.
We would still need approval from the planning board for the special permits and whatnot.
For cannabis control.
Yeah, cannabis.
It gets very messy, very, very messy.
Yeah, it's not our intention to make anything messy. We're
Yeah,
trying
no,
to-
it gets very messy when the engineer has recommended one thing, and you're asking to kind of gallop ahead and get permits.
We're asking for approval today, and in the alternative, it would be asking for a building permit to issue. We did apply for a building permit. We have all the requirements, the insurance in place, everything else. But my understanding is the planning board has to issue a building permit, so,
No, the building permit signs the building permit application.
okay.
The building department
We just
issues a
have to
building
sign off.
permit.
Gotcha. So we would be requesting that the planning board sign off on our building permit application, which I do have here with me today.
I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, if they're not gonna do the pavement, that's kind of what you were suggesting, we hold off on until next meeting? if these,
Well, what I
the
was
board
suggesting-
decides they're not going to?
What I was suggesting is that if the board was going to require pavement, there's a whole
Yep, the
amount of
stormwater
things that have to
management.
be addressed, stormwater and so forth.
It sounded like they were leaning towards, as this thing progresses,
Right.
to do the paving part of it, which is gonna require the stormwater management stuff.
So at a minimum, they need to submit plans either as a condition of approval to show things that they've spoken about tonight, the location of curb stops on the plan, pavement that's coming up. So they need to address those issues that the board has discussed with them tonight. A number of my issues are no longer applicable because the board is moving in that direction. I think things like the entrance coming in can't be half pavement and half gravel. I don't think the pavement, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the pavement up here is the best either. You might consider taking the pavement up and having the entire thing gravel, as opposed to having this mishmash of cars going with pavement on two wheels and gravel on two wheels. Maybe you take up the pavement if that's an acceptable compromise to get the site cohesive.
I would propose that we can repair and amend any sort of the existing pavement, prior to opening, or as a condition of the board, we would repair and, top any sort of issues with the paving and make it look clean. Ultimately, we don't want jagged corners, we don't want jagged edges where pavement meets gravel. We want it to be clean and tight and, safe for those handicapped accessible customers who need pavement to get to the handicap accessible ramp.
So David, if he fixes the existing pavement and leaves the rest of it gravel, and eventually does the pavement, he doesn't, right now, he wouldn't have to do the whole water thing, all that right now, if he just fixes the existing pavement.
Correct.
Okay, by fixing the existing pavement, do you guys mean tear it up or repair it? Or tear it up and replace it with gravel?
Is that a question for me or for?
I guess it's a question for the board. I don't know what you want to do. I just want to be clear in the decision letter what you're talking about.
Well, that would be the technical question. to the
The
proponent.
the problem that we have is that we're going to have a $5,000 bond. If we had a bond that was substantial enough, we could have the asphalt done, because we'd have some leverage. The problem is going to be is after the building gets put up and everything is operating, and then we say, you've got to do the asphalt work in the parking lot, we have no leverage to get them to do that.
We wouldn't be able to, we couldn't hold off the occupancy permit or if it's a condition in their permit, then that
No,
wouldn't
because
stop
what
the problem.
you guys were talking about was let him open and then pave the parking lot later
Oh.
on. That's the idea that's been bandied about. So I just want to be very
It's
clear.
two different situations.
Yeah.
One's the parking lot at a later date, and the other one is,
Well, I mean-
permission to start working on the project, which I hate.
Austin, my engineer.
Austin Charlie with the engineer, I think as a condition, if the board's going that way, as a condition of the approval, we'll have to address the peer review comments. So we can kind of take another stab at the plan, submit it to the peer reviewer, so we can work out whether or not if we go take a look and see if the pavement is in good shape, or whether or not we want to scrap it and go all gravel. That would be, still be reviewed. It doesn't have to be decided tonight, it can be as a condition of the approval that the peer reviewer accepts it.
I would be leaning towards
But he doesn't
not
make those
going gravel.
decisions, the board does.
Right, but it's as a condition of the approval, it would have to get signed off on them, so it would still go through the board. You know what I mean? So we're gonna resubmit a set of plans addressing his comment letter, and we'll address, we're gonna take out some pavement, leave a section for the handicap, can take another stab at the plans in terms of where there's gonna be gravel, where there's gonna be curb stops and stuff like that, before the actual, they get their site plan approval. That's separate from, building permit, of course.
Do they actually need the planner board to sign off on a building permit for the building itself? I think you can apply for a building permit just for the building and the renovation of the building, but that's up to the building inspector.
Well, you're right, it's kind of a cooperation between them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hold them up if they want to get going.
Yeah, we do. Burning cash right now.
Yeah.
waiting
It looks
to-
approvable.
Do you rent the warehouse space now too?
Well, we're renting the whole lot.
Yeah.
We're paying for
I-
fully
I-
occupied lot.
I think they should take, like you said, another stab at addressing the comments, and I can't see why the building inspector would not let you start working on the building. I
Interior
mean,
only?
obviously you can't open without a site plan.
Right.
Interior only?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interior. I mean, obviously, the building itself is, I mean, the plans we have is, other than the color, that's what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, nothing's on the interior with the plans.
So, I mean, exterior, interior, I can't see a reason why they can't start working on the building.
I don't think that would cause us any delay if
Have-
we push it back.
Have we gone down to a 5,000 surety versus a 10,000? Trying to think some of the other. projects.
25,000.
No, it's been 25 or 5.
I believe you,
Or 5? Okay.
Or
We've
5,
done
yep.
the five.
I
few
believe you
times.
granted a waiver to,
Oh, we've granted waivers.
Yeah.
The problem with it is that the reason we have a $25,000 minimum, I'm just, for anyone that cares, that originally we would have a 5,000, and then all of a sudden, someone would have occupancy and be operating a business, and we would say, you've got to complete this work, and it was over $5,000, and they would basically say, well, we're not going to spend $20,000 to do it. So they just didn't do it. We could take the $5,000, and we couldn't finish it, and it was their property to begin with. So it becomes a problem. The problem we have here is, the only reason for us to have a $5,000 at this point is for the asphalt. I mean, this landscaping is minimal and everything else is. So we really don't need $25,000. But if we would determine at a later date that we wanted to have asphalt put in there, $5,000, I'm telling you, when you want to put asphalt down, is expensive.
So could we split the difference rather than 25 or 5? Could we
Oh.
go for 10 or 15?
You can do anything you want, but I know he has a financial problem at this point, which we'd like to help him out. We'd like to see him get the building up and running, but that's where we're at.
What could you live with?
I mean, we're going to be making a 7-figure investment into this warehouse space, and we wouldn't risk that over, a parking lot. So what we could work with is, 5,000 we could do. I don't want to sort of throw out higher numbers than that if the board's not going to require us to pay higher than that. I understand the concerns of the board.
The $5,000 is more than adequate for what they're doing, other than the asphalt. That's the only problem you
Well,
got.
my concern is the asphalt.
And when that's going to happen, if it sounds like we would have let them have the gravel at this point, that's just what I feel, talking to all of you. We really haven't got a problem, but at a later date, that could be a problem.
Well, I think we discussed that as this project goes on, I think we're all in agreement, we're gonna want to see pavement.
He very well may say, I've got to have pavement
Yeah.
at some point.
I think at least by next winter, would certainly have the pavement issue addressed. But we would want to be able to get some revenue in before investing into the pavement job. We do have pavers who are very close to us, who give us a great deal on paving the lot, close contacts of ours, so it's not a,
We
It's
get
not
up to
something-
$5 a
The
gallon
pot-
of gasoline, it'll be twice as
The
much.
part on paving is gonna be the stormwater management part of it.
Right.
That's what's
Piece of
going to
it.
cost you.
right, yeah, so, as far as catch basins and things along those lines.
But I think you hear what we're saying is before this goes to the next phase, beyond the retail, that this is, the board's going to want to see that part of it done.
I understand.
All right,
Obviously, by that point, you may want it too after you get craters and been paying money to fill in craters.
Yeah, no, we don't want to, we want to make this just an easy in and out experience for customers, and, you know, craters aren't going to be, you know, craters and parking spots that aren't clear is not what we're interested in putting together. We're going to do everything we can and everything that needs to be done to make sure that it's a clean and obvious parking spot for individuals, and, you know, by next winter, I can say we'll likely have the pavement solution put in place. There is an entire back area of the property too, so whether the planning board will require the back area to be paved or not, I guess that would be a question for the second session, but you know, for now, just that parking area in front of the warehouse next to our retail store is something that we're trying to avoid having to pave right now. Aesthetically, I think it works.
I can remember taking my new Ram a couple of years ago on a gravel road, and I had to make a stop at a Dodge dealer up in Vermont to make sure I got touch-up paint for it.
Yeah.
So,
Do we want to have a motion to close the public hearing,
Motion.
or do we want to continue it?
I think we can close it.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
Oh, I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Everybody is in favor of closing the public hearing, correct? So moved.
So I think the general conditions we're leaning towards, if I'm understanding everybody, just to sum it all up.
Theoretically, we're just talking to the
Right.
five of us at this
Right,
point.
theoretically,
And our engineer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
is how, a reasonable parking plan that involves curbs and regularly painted lines, and making sure that there's a maintenance plan that fills in any grooves or ruts that might form over the next 6, 9, 12 months. Some sort of fencing or delineation along the property line with a neighbor. Is that something that I heard the
Yep.
board
Yeah,
feels is appropriate?
on the south side, yeah.
Yep. Okay. And that, I don't know if we need to specifically say this, but the parking gravel situation applies specifically to the retail use. And anything beyond that, we'll have to have a separate conversation.
And then at a future date, if we feel that that's not proper, that we will require blacktopping.
Right. I think in the past, we've also put a condition regarding if for some reason there was a traffic issue, if they got really, really popular and all of a sudden there's lines down the street, that they would have to have some sort of arrangement with Abington Police for a detail or some other parking arrangement. I think we've done that for a couple of the other stores, haven't we?
We have, but they have a ton of spill-out area if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not their property, but,
Yeah. I think we just made that note that if for some reason, it doesn't happen anymore.
yeah.
But if for some reason it did, they would have to work with Abington Police on some sort of traffic management plan.
And that it will be, also incorporate the letter from Norwood Engineering,
Comment- incorporate the
February
comments
2nd,
of Dave's letter.
2002.
Well,
With the exception of, are there any drainage comments in here? No, they were gonna have to come back, okay.
We're going to have a
Subject
Okay.
to the comment letter as applicable.
Well, I actually put the
As
conditions in.
applicable, because there are things that are no longer applicable.
but we're still gonna address your comments on the plan, so we're gonna
Yes.
put it off till the next meeting for site plan? Okay. And I don't see where it's a problem with the building, for a building permit. Obviously can't open without site plan, so.
Yep.
Well, we're closing the public hearing, number one,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
we've done.
Yep.
So,
And you wanna continue it?
now, so
Yeah, we can continue on that.
that's over. And
We can continue the site plan part of it without the public portion, right?
we can do that.
I would assume. just to review the changes made on the site plan
Right,
next
right.
meeting.
Okay. And in the motion, reducing the surety bond from 25,000 to 5,000?
Motion.
And in the motion, to waive the stormwater regulations, because it,
Are we continuing it, or are we doing a decision letter tonight?
I guess the question that I'm coming back to all the time, Bob, is that as far as the building department is concerned, what do they need in order to let them continue?
They can work on the building at their own peril. They need site plan to open the store,
Right.
but I can't see why they can't get a permit to
Liz, do they need,
do construction on the building. I don't
They
know.
shouldn't,
do they need
right?
something specific from us to allow that to
Do they
proceed?
need anything, what did he say to you?
I have an application. They didn't mention planning board approval other than just the line where the planning board's supposed to sign off on our
Did they
application.
highlight that, or check it off, or indicate to you?
No,
Then-
not that I'm aware of.
Then you shouldn't need a signature. They usually tell you who to get signatures from.
No, she gave me some instructions on things that are required.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have, for whatever it's worth, I think the board would not have a problem if for some reason it comes up in the next 3 to 4 weeks. That the feeling of the board is that it's not a problem, that they just want to start internal work.
So I gather we're continuing the site plan. We're not voting on that tonight.
Yeah, just to button everything up for the next meeting.
All right.
Does that make sense, Dave? Make that motion again. Oh, wait a-
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, discussion on the state multifamily zoning requirements for towns that have an MBTA station.
See you later.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for coming.
Last month, I missed the meeting because I'm retired, and when you retire, you don't know what day it is.
Oh, that can happen.
Did I send you an agenda? No, I didn't last
No,
month.
you did, you sent the Zoom thing, and I went on Tuesday night, I was sitting there and kept saying, waiting for the host to start, waiting for the host to start. You know, it's like a half an hour, and I
I
said,
did
what the
that
hell
last
is going
Friday
on
for a
here?
meeting I have tomorrow.
What's going on
And
here?
I'm not retired.
I looked at my calendar, I said, oh, the meeting was last night.
Daisy.
Right, Bruce, you don't know what day it is, right?
Yeah, you gotta, I need my wife to keep me on. I had a doctor's appointment at 8:45 this morning. I was sleeping at 7:30. Get up, you have to go to the doctor's.
It's crazy. Okay, gentlemen.
Take care.
Good night, David. My best hand.
Yep, same thing. No misses.
On the multifamily zoning requirements for MTA, are there any comments? Anybody want to?
There's been the state has done a webinar on it. In fact, they're gonna do a webinar on it this Wednesday at noon time. And I'm sure if you went on the website, they would give you the instructions to sign into it. I've signed up for it. I'm sure other members of this board will probably sign up for it. I forwarded the information on how to sign up to it to the board.
Right, and I've already heard it once. I've spent the time listening to it,
But I think
and
it's gonna be something different.
It's attorneys this time?
well,
Yeah, I know.
I'm not quite sure they're going to make much difference from what I saw, so.
Was it a good presentation, and did they answer a lot of questions? You kind of leave more questions at the end?
It was more or less of a virtual thing. I mean, you didn't really, you could ask questions on the bar down the bottom, and all that kind of stuff. And it was fairly informative. It's obvious that they want more housing, and they don't really care, much. I've had discussion with others, and we have quite a bit of multifamily housing in Abington as it is right now. And so,
I was asked about this at the Old Colony Joint Transportation Committee meeting the other night, and I told them what Abington was looking at was extending it into Abington Center, you know, because like we gave her an example, that big lot that the bank has up there now, for example, could be, and, you know, and that was appreciated, the comment that I made.
So I guess what I need from you guys had questions on funding that we will no longer be receiving
yeah.
if we choose not to move forward with this. So I emailed the town manager and I emailed the DPW. The DPW I figured would be the bigger piece of that. But it's, we would not be eligible for any MassWorks funding, and we would not be eligible for any DHCD funding. And there's a third one, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think,
Any of the local grants that come out of the casino money, I think.
yeah. So we got $2 million from MassWorks to help with our water situation, like last October or November.
So it's nothing to sneeze at if we don't.
It's not,
get the
and
money.
we've been applying to other, like, groups, like it says DHCD, but then it filters down and it becomes a different grant opportunity whose, you know, parent is DHCD. So those ones we wouldn't be eligible for either. So what I need from you guys is, our regional planning agency has been instructed from on high that their priority for help this year is on MBTA communities, to help you with the zoning, help you figure it out. So there are grants available from OCPC and from the state level. I don't know if you guys want me to pursue one of those or not. I mean, if we're moving forward, we're gonna need help. We're gonna need people to help calculate the number of houses, to calculate the, you know, the square footage of whatever we're doing, come up with scenarios.
OCPC through the DLTA, District Local Technical Assistance Program,
Yes, that's all they can do this year, basically, is MBTA
and
communities.
they can help us with that, and that would be a great, you know, we know the technical staff, I used to be one of them,
Yep.
and we know how good they are, so I think
And
that's.
we can apply to them, and we can apply to the state. I think anybody would be more than willing to hand us money to move forward with this. I just need to know whether you guys want to move forward with it or not.
Well, I think we should move forward at $2 million.
It almost doesn't really apply to us, but I don't know if there's any harm to address
Well,
it.
I mean, it does apply.
$2 million, John.
No, I'm saying that, but what they want us to do, our land isn't really, I mean, it's already, like I said, multi-housing, it's already.
Right, a lot of it is built on.
Yeah, it's all-
Right,
Yeah,
right.
But if we
so
act
do
on
it.
it,
So, right, so we adopt it, and,
we adopt it, and we
Yeah.
can say this is what we have to build on.
that's what I was thinking.
I
Other
mean,
than it's
the
administrative work.
easiest thing is to adopt it, and that way we continue to be eligible.
and we're not talking about this till next year at an annual town meeting.
Oh,
There's plenty of time for us. We do have to meet certain thresholds by May 2nd. We have to answer a questionnaire, we have to do this, we have to do that, in order to still be eligible for everything this year. But we don't have to adopt anything until next year.
And that, by that time, OCPC through the DLTA will be able to give us a roadmap as to where we should be going with it. Because they'll do that, the DLTA year goes from January 1st through the end of the year. So they would have to get this plan in place by the end of the year. And today, you know, this is February 7th. They'll have, when we tell them we want them to start working on it, until the end of the year to get this done.
And I cannot stress how much of a priority the state is making this.
Yeah, I see that through everything that I get on
That you're
MassWorks,
getting,
listserv,
yeah.
and everything else that I'm talking to. And again, it was a discussion topic at the OCPC JTC meeting the other day.
Yeah, it's a topic everywhere. So if you guys are okay with it, I will, I mean, only because I figure first in, first out, and we should probably maybe
Is that
try to
what-
get some
Is
grant
that what
money.
you wish to do? Okay, so
I do, yeah.
the board votes to do that.
Okay.
CPC is doing 3 road safety.
On the
audits.
marijuana production and cultivation overlay district,
I drafted this bylaw based on our existing bylaw. I removed the word sale, so it should be just growth and cultivation. I think what we're going to end up needing to do is we have one section that's a marijuana overlay district that it currently exists in our bylaw, and I think we're going to have to take the overlay district and separate them into like an A and a B.
Okay.
So we have one for sales, growing, and cultivation, and one just for growing and cultivation, which that part will be over on the Chestnut Street overlay. And the other one would be as it currently exists. Everything has gone to town council. So if you guys, the only other thing that will probably get changed is the town manager wants to add 2 more licenses for cultivation only. So the 2 licenses would be used in this proposed district if you guys want to move forward with it. And if that's the case, I'll do a hearing for March.
Yeah, so, D, marijuana, it's on page 3, number of licenses.
Yep.
The 50% number would allow 5, I believe.
Oh, so we would have
So it'd
to,
be 20%. That's, I think, what we had, or I just wonder if we could just say 3. I mean, we meet all the other standards in the town.
wouldn't you think we should increase the percentage to 70 or 80?
You know what, if 3 places want to open up in, on Chestnut Street, I mean, why
Right.
not?
Well, I mean, I think 2 is sufficient, or 3, I don't care. Do you guys?
Yeah, you know what, do we even need a cap? Do we need to cap it?
If we
I thought
don't-
it came under the state regulations or
Yeah,
something.
well, we have to have a
It does.
floor, but we don't have to have a cap.
Yeah, it seems like liquor, that's made up stuff.
Yeah, we can remove the cap.
I mean, if they want to have 12 up there, okay, I mean, sure. And do we want to say you can't have any more than a certain number? I don't know if, we don't have to approve it.
How about no more than 5 growing cultivation licenses?
Yeah.
That would give the town 10 altogether. Do you think there's a large enough area up in,
And theoretically, you have 2 now in the regular district.
yeah, that are gonna be growing?
You know, at this time, I don't see any reason why we would have a limit anyway. I would say that all of a sudden we start getting a dozen of these things a year, that we're going to go, wait a minute. It's like, you know,
So,
because it seems like everybody's jumping into this industry, and not everybody can win. I don't know how long everybody's going to last.
all right, so you want me to ask the town manager to check
Right.
about lifting the cap and then having up to 5, cultivation, growing
Yeah.
only? Okay.
And on page 4, section 3, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
shall be separated from adjacent uses by a 50-foot buffer strip. I don't know if that way that place is set up, if that's feasible. I mean, I don't know if it's, you know, based on the size of the warehouse structure, there could be a second use in that same structure next door.
The planning board, I think, can waive that. It says, planning board finds that adequate buffering can provide a narrow
yeah,
buffer
sorry.
strip.
So
We
is
can
that-
add or no buffer strip at all if demonstrated,
Oh,
or waive the buffer strip. I can add or waive buffer strip.
Because he's got a couple of pretty big buildings up there, and so I don't want to say can't have an electrician's place up there next to the,
Right.
if it fits. Um, would 5 throw any weirdness into it on that same page, page 4, subsection 5, talking about dimensional requirements? Probably not.
No, there are no residential requirements in that district, because it's all the MUPDD.
Okay, that was all I had.
Yeah, there's no residential in the Muppet.
No.
I love
Unless
that
by
act.
special permit.
I love that acronym, Muppet.
Muppet. All right, so you guys are good for this to move forward, and I'll do a hearing notice for March 8th on that, okay? And then,
Battery energy storage bylaw.
The only thing when I looked this up a little further, was that there's a generator that runs, and I don't know what kind of generator they use, but there's a generator as part of the site that runs and creates electricity. But,
yeah,
Or
that's,
solar.
well, that feeds it into the generator.
yeah.
Or solar feeds it into the batteries. This is
Yes.
the thing that I don't understand, because, well, one thing I don't understand is, most solar systems have a battery backup. You know, the solar cells charge the batteries, so
Yes.
you can power the system. But this is a whole different animal with a building and a 7-foot fence. And
It
all
is.
They're converting power.
Battery technology hasn't really caught up for residential yet. It's not cost effective.
No.
So the solar you're seeing on the houses is just backfeeding the grid. You're not even,
I
technically
mean,
you're not
I'm
using it.
just saying, Bob, when I've seen solar setups on these off-the-grid things, they always have batteries as a backup.
The little bit I looked into it, for me to power my house for a couple days on batteries, it would probably cost me $60,000 for batteries.
Holy crap.
So
gonna say-
it's,
There was a story-
it's not feasible.
There was a
for
story last week of a
residential.
guy that owned a
You can
Tesla,
get a generator.
Tesla.
$25,000 for a battery.
You get a
The
generator.
first Tesla battery is 10 grand. $6,500 a
cell?
pack after that, and I'd need like 30 packs to
Wow.
even make it.
That's all. Wow.
You can take all those battery packs for your power tools, Bob, and bring it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So this is,
So
this is,
we'll go forward with that, Bill.
Do you
This
want
is
to
a
go
much
forward
larger
with it or
scale.
not?
I still have questions, but I won't say don't go forward with it.
I mean, we
Yes.
could pull it and wait
Yeah.
to see what comes up next year. What I borrowed to craft this was out of New York. I couldn't find anything in a bylaw in Massachusetts. What mostly has been happening is that they're amending their table of use, which
so,
town council has advised us not to do.
so I guess if we don't do something, there
You can
isn't
do
anything
anything.
that says we can't, you go anywhere.
Well, they can't.
It's not allowed use.
It's not an allowed use. So right now, I think we're sort of in a buffer zone where it's all kind of brand new and,
So this specifically says no battery storage in our zoning bylaw? I don't think it does.
no.
So technically, is it an allowed use or isn't it? If it doesn't say no,
I think according to our current inspector, it's not allowed.
okay, that would be up to him. But then.
Because I think somebody called to do it, and that's how this all started, because this guy called me and sent you
Well-
guys a bunch of
I
information.
still think.
Is that anything like having a tattoo parlor at one time? You didn't have it, so you could have it anywhere?
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I need to know.
Yep,
How about I get clarification on that question?
okay.
And I let you
That's
guys
fine,
all
but
know, and then
I
you
still,
can,
I still think we should move forward with this.
okay, it's up to you. I don't care.
I think we should move forward, we can get clarification.
That's
All right.
that's why I was afraid
Yeah.
this might get classified as a utility, and then we're really in trouble.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move, I'll
Okay.
get clarification. Let me write a note.
Yeah, because these are privately owned. These aren't
Yeah.
things being set up by National Grid. It's by a property owner, right? Do they have to be within a
What's the
certain
company?
distance of like a solar field or solar panels, or can it just be,
No.
it can be anywhere?
I would think they'd have to do it in conjunction with the utilities, but
Rick, did you want to bring up something on Route 18, on apartments?
Yeah, Liz, I emailed you, I don't know if I emailed you too late.
Probably.
Probably, yeah, it was my fault, I just got to it too late, so. I talked with, I 3 ideas, and I have them, I'll email them to you again. I emailed them to Liz, but it was just too late to print them out for the meeting. I talked to Wayne for a little bit. The thought was to update what we require for tree plantings. Because right now, it's mainly just kind of focuses on some street plantings, or there has to be a minimum of like 4 trees per lot, or something like that. To say something a little bit more cleaner, like if you take the number of trees over a certain diameter, 6 inches, 8 inches, whatever you decide, you have to then replace a percentage of it, 25%, 30%, 50%. Okay. And then as long as it's a native species or a multitude of native species, the developer can say, this is where I want them, this is how I want to lay it out. They can be street trees, they can be side yard trees, they can be backyard trees. They figure it out, but the floor is 25% of whatever you cut down, you gotta replant, basically. To kind of keep it neat.
With the same caliper or with
It would be
smaller
a
trees?
minimum, I think, 30-foot high when fully mature. Because, so our new stormwater regs have some strict language about what you can take down when developing a lot. So no longer can you just clear cut a lot, essentially. You can only take down what you essentially need to build the, to put in utility lines, to build the foundation.
Put a road in.
You have to identify all the major trees in the property. So the new laws are a little bit stricter. So our new bylaw would basically say, in accordance with our new stormwater bylaws, this is how it's going to work, is that they want you to replant trees, basically. It says it in our regs. So it just kind of updates a little bit. And like I said, I have the language, I'll send it around. If people think it's an idea they'd like to hear a little bit more about.
The problem with it is, Rick, is that if you had an acre of land and it had trees on it, which I'm sure if it's been that way for a number of years, there'd be a tremendous amount of trees on it. And to put a house on the property and then say it was going to be 25% of the trees, it'd be too many trees. I mean, if you want to let them grow how they ought to grow with the proper canopy and everything else.
Yeah.
So I don't think it could be as high as 25%. I just don't see how you.
Yeah, we can
how it would be
tweak that
practical.
number.
I think somewhere in it should say at the wishes of the planning board. In other words, if it was going to be 5 trees or 10 trees or 15 or 20. In other words, to make it a percentage, you probably would make the lot unbuildable. And the other problem that I talked about is when you start changing grades and everything, even if you left some of the trees there, they eventually they're not going to live. They're not going to survive. And if you're putting utilities in, even though you put the utilities in, yeah, the trees will live for 3 or 4 years, and then all of a sudden they'll die because you dug that trench in. So there's a lot of, I think the planning board has to use some common sense on how many trees you need to put on that lot.
Yeah, and I think I put language in there saying the board can waive or reduce depending on whatever hardship the developer shows on the site. So if there's ledge, if there's utilities, if there's whatever, and so they can only plant 4, okay, then let us know they can only replace 10% of the trees or something. But the idea is not to give them kind of an easy way out, to make them work a little bit and think about it and establish a floor, and then say to us, this is what makes sense for the site. And like I said, I'll send it to the group, and if we decide it doesn't working, we can pull it off. I don't know.
Okay?
So that's one of them. The other is, and this gets back to what Bruce sent me when he broke down, or he sent me what Old Colony had broken down with our housing stock to find out that about, is it 58% is single family? Which means 42% of Abington's housing stock is multifamily?
58 and a fraction,
Yeah.
so
So,
roughly 41%.
yeah, so 41%. Plus now we have to have this 50-acre multifamily zoning district around the MBTA station. So my feeling is we're doing our share regarding multifamily housing in town. At the same time, we really need to buffer up our commercial space. What I'm afraid of happening is if we keep growing where we can put multifamily, there's a lot more demand for multifamily. It's going to eat into our commercial space, particularly along Route 18. I'd like to reserve Route 18 more for commercial. So my idea is to, right now, all multifamily is allowed in highway commercial zones with a special permit. My suggestion is to break it up so that, let's say, it makes sense to have a larger development on Route 18 because that's the main highway. But what I don't want are these little 3 or 4 unit townhouses taking up what could be commercial property. So my thought was, if it's 12 units or less, it's a non-permitted use. They can go to the zoning board, they can ask for a waiver.
A variance?
Variance,
Thank
excuse
you.
me. 12 units and over would be special permit. It would remain the same. Basically, I want to discourage the development of these 5, 6, 7, 8 unit townhouses right on our commercial strip, and instead save Route 18 for commercial development or the larger scale multifamily that you would need a state highway for.
Weymouth made a mistake along Route 18, allowing a lot of residential pieces to move in, which really surprised me. And they're
Yeah.
very small things like you're talking about.
I mean, I prefer just to reserve it solely for commercial, but I don't think that would be allowed or necessarily smart.
No, the idea was that if someone's got a house there and they can't afford to move out of it, at least they could do something with their little house.
Well, you had the other problem with that fellow on the corner of, just down the street
Right.
here, that, I mean,
That's highway commercial.
way too many houses, way too many residents in a small little spot.
And, or what Steve Goslin did.
Yeah, on the other corner.
I'm
of
afraid
18,
that's what we're gonna see a lot of, and that's nothing, not a knock against what Mr. Goslin did, both of his things have looked very nice, but I'm afraid you'll start to see a lot more of those on every little parcel on Route 18. All those single-family homes will become 7 or 8 unit townhouses, and it'll just snatch up all of our commercial land that we would have on Route 18.
So Jeff, you want to amend, Route 18 is mostly highway commercial, so you're going to want to amend highway commercial.
They would amend the highway commercial use table for multifamily housing to make under 12 units an N, so you would require a variance from the zoning board. And 12 and over would still be allowed by special permit. And we could make that number different, we make it 15 units, 18 units, 23, whatever. But I think, there was a reason I picked 12, I can't remember what it was.
It's not bad, I mean, most of the people that come in, it's the easy development. Residential is probably the easiest thing. The thing that takes work is going out and finding commercial people.
Oh, I
That's
found
a
that
whole
up in
different
North
thing.
Abington Center.
Yeah, you have to have someone that's their business. But everybody else comes in, oh, I can't find anybody to fill a commercial. Well, it's because they only do residential, and that's what they want to do. So, and that's the easiest default, and I think that we should put some safeguards on that.
Well, easiest restriction is, following what Rick suggested, is limit the number of residential units in highway commercial. Because, I mean, we still have a pad-sided target, which is vacant,
Yeah.
in terms of getting more commercial development in the town goes. And if you figure they can't develop a pad site next to target,
Yeah.
So I would,
it's all demand.
All right, so I just, real quick, want
Right.
to, so there'll be 4 changes we're looking to do at town meeting. So the battery bylaw, the marijuana overlay district in West Abington, the trees, and the Route 18, 12 units.
and there was one other I came up with.
Okay,
It was, so right now we require a buffer between commercial and industrial and residential uses. the law is a little squishy when it comes to if a commercial property acquires the abutting property, having to then go and establish a buffer between the residential property next door. There was a restaurant in town that bought the residential property next door and then paved right up to the property line and didn't preserve that buffer. So reading the language, it seems like it's a little squishy about making sure that, you know, that's not a loophole that they can get, because they would have been, I think, grandfathered in under the pre-buffer rule. They didn't have to do it. This specifically says if you grow your lot size through buying the property next door, you still have to apply, you still have to do the buffer between your business and the residential property next door.
Appreciate that it would be a separate owner, but used by the same cooperatively, you know, and then like, you know, okay. You're thinking of a particular restaurant, I'm thinking
Yeah.
of, yeah.
We know what we're
Because it
talking
says like if you're grandfathered in, if you're grandfathered in, you don't have to do anything until there's an addition or an alteration. I don't know if buying the property next door and expanding your parking lot is considered an alteration or an addition. This specifically says, yes, this is an alteration and addition, and now you have to install the buffer strip between you and your neighbor. That's a better way of explaining it.
Or you get rid of the neighbor altogether.
Yeah.
And then there would be the next neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
again, I'll send the language over and so you can see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that was the one you were talking about.
on the letter to the town, just a couple of minor things, and the other thing is, I guess I don't know whether I'm in the minority or the majority at this point. Where it says the pandemic, I would just say the pandemic caused the board meetings both virtually and in person, rather than the raging on.
But it was raging on last year.
Yeah, I understand. I just figured at this point, and then there's just another thing, just an A in there somewhere, whatever, yeah.
Well, you should probably say the alleged pandemic.
I just didn't want to say.
I didn't say that either. All right.
The opinions of members of this board are their own, strictly that.
We only did one subdivision.
What's that?
Yeah,
We only did one subdivision last year.
yeah.
Some
Why were we so
things
busy?
run into
Form
one
As
year or
we've
the
only
other
done
year.
four.
Feels like more.
Form As,
Yeah, we were
too.
Right.
pretty busy last year.
I saw 9 Form As. It seems like we have Form A.
One subdivision plan can take 7 meetings.
I don't know how she finds it all.
She's the best.
Rosalind Street.
She's the best. She's the best.
Thank you.
Any correspondence?
I do not believe we have any.
Guys, I want to let you know that Old Colony's going to be doing 3 road safety audits. I'll forward that information along to you if you want to go out on the road safety audit with the guys. Wayne, you've done that before.
When is that work on Hancock and,
That's it. That's going to happen. It's the design, and that's pretty complete.
good?
Is it BYOB?
When will they let the contract out, you know?
I will let you know on that.
Sign, please.
And we need to sign
Oh, yeah.
The papers.
those plans that we gave to,
Dave's friend. Dave knew him from
What does
Ghost
that
of
mean?
Christmas
You're looking
Past.
for a motion to adjourn? Is that?
a motion to adjourn
I'll make
after
that
you, then you can sign these afterwards. Motion made to adjourn. Seconded? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved.
You have papers to sign, Wayne?
Yeah. I'll just do these now.